Welcome to the Office of the Utah State Auditor's Compliance Basics video. This video is a recording of an in-person Compliance Basics training that was hosted by our office earlier this year. Please note that since this training was recorded, our website has undergone an extensive overhaul and the Local Government Resource Center at resources.auditor.utah.gov, referenced throughout this training, is no longer active. The new Local Government Resource Center can be found by visiting our website at auditor.utah.gov and selecting the Local Government tab at the top of the page. There you can find all of our forms, manuals, and guides, our training FAQ, the compliance dashboard, a link to the state reporting system, and other information. Any additional videos mentioned throughout this training can be found on our YouTube channel, Utah Office of the State Auditor, Local Government Division.
So these are all requirements that have been set forth by the state code, which is set by the state legislature. So if there's ever any laws you hate, just get a hold of your representatives and tell them that these laws really bug me because it means I have to do these reports and I don't want to do them. Is it good? Okay. So we don't make these rules. So I totally understand we're not always your favorite people to hear from. And we're definitely not your favorite people to hear from when we're telling you that we're holding your funds. Technically, we're not holding your funds. We don't actually have the money. It's the county, but that does come from us. So hopefully you know that we don't do it out of spite or anything. We just do it because that's what we're supposed to do. And if you hate reporting, we have a list. It's not updated. There is a list on the website where you can find local Utah-based vendors who can actually help you with the reporting. Oh, did we take that off?
Is it the approved vendor list, non-audited accounting service?
Oh, there it is. Thanks, Hadley.
Yeah.
I'm staring right at it.
It's okay.
So this list is getting updated, but this will kind of give you an idea of most of these firms are still doing financial services for districts. They can do various things. The prices may not be the same because it is a little older. Like I said, we're updating this. But if you just think, oh, this is like too much and I don't want to do it, I want to hand this off, you're welcome to contact one of these people or give us a call and we can put you in touch with somebody who can actually do it for you, and then you don't even have to do it. So I guess technically if you decided to do that, then your training is over today. But that is an option. We don't have an opinion either way. It's just something to make things easier, and it is there a lot for bigger entities who are required to get like full audits and things like that. But that is an option for you guys as well. So we have that. And then today we're just going to be going over all of the reporting requirements. In your position, you may or may not be required to handle everything in terms of actually doing them, but sometimes you are. Just the size always depends. We have some entities where the clerk ends up doing a lot of the work, but it's just a good idea to have somebody in the office know, like, here's what's required. Here's where you can find everything. Here's when it's due. Here's a basic how-to. And if you have any questions throughout, please feel free to just wave us down and let us know. Let's see. Okay, so this, I don't know if you've been on this website previously. This is the Local Government Resource Center. And this website is a great website to bookmark or save or write down. I will send out, after this meeting, I can send you all, if you'll leave your name and email, I can kind of send you a summary of everything that we've gone over with this information as well, but also if you want to write it down as we go. So this is a Local Government Resource Center, and it has pretty much everything that you need, and probably a lot of stuff maybe you don't even need, that will help you in your job. And one of so this is the main page. And one of the and then there's these various tabs, everything's broken down here. And one that you'll probably become very familiar with is the Forms, Manuals, and Guides tab. And the first place that you want to come to is these reporting requirements. So if you are from a town, this very first one, this is you. If you're from a special district, a conservation district, an interlocal, this would be here. The requirements are pretty similar. I'm just going to open this one for cities and towns for you to take a look at it. You can see it's not a huge document, but it does list all the reports that are required and then which office requires them. So you can see that a few of them on here are not for our office. And then it shows you where they can be submitted and then when they are due. So this is something I would definitely keep with you as much as possible. And then on the second page, it kind of just shows you the different report descriptions. So the entity registry, that one, I think you guys, you're good with that one. That one is the Lieutenant Governor's office, so I can't speak to that one, but they tend to notify us when someone is out of compliance so that we can include that in our compliance letters. And I don't have a list of that, so I'm going to assume everyone is in compliance. And then the budget, and what's required there, and then the financial report. I would imagine most of you for your entities probably fall within the less than 350 or the 350 to $1 million. Are any of you over $1 million? Oh, okay. So the financial reporting part probably won't apply to you guys because you guys you go to a firm. I'm assuming you have an audit. Okay. Sorry, you'll have to sit through those. But all the other ones do apply to you. So there's that. And then there's the financial certification, fraud risk, impact fee, which we will go over in a little bit more detail. I want to touch on the deposit and investment report really quick. That is done with the treasurer's office. Ann Pedroza couldn't be here with us today. But if you haven't already met her or spoken with her, she's extremely helpful. Her email address is apedroza, and that's APEDROZA at utah.gov. And she can walk you through anything you need in terms of submitting your deposit and investment information. So she's really, really helpful when it comes to that. So first off, I'm going to talk about budgets. And you, again, come back to this wonderful page, Forms, Manuals, and Guides. And you will just, Parker, did you say you had one open? Okay. Oh, there it is. Yeah, okay. So for the special district budget, you probably have seen this before. You can just download this template. We don't require you to use the template because some entities do have reporting software where you can pull it directly out of your reporting software. But this does provide you the template, the format that is required, and that is required by state code. So this first page is just some basic instructions. But if you do have questions, our phone number is on here, and Seth's phone number. He is our manager. He unfortunately has pneumonia. Otherwise, he would be here today. But his contact information is in there if you ever have questions when you're doing, if you do have to do your budget. So the requirements for that, as you can see, the main one that people get dinged on the most is not providing the 3 years of data. So if you're submitting a budget for 2025, that would be the fiscal year that would go right here. And then the budget column D would be the 2025 budget. And then the current year would be 2024 data. And then the prior year would be 2023. And then obviously each year you go ahead, then that changes a little bit. And again, you're welcome to use this. It is useful. It has calculations built in. So when you're entering your info, it will do all the summations for you. And you're welcome to change right here the revenues, any labels under revenues, any labels under expenses, whatever you need. Are any of you enterprise funds? Do any of you? Okay. And then capital projects or debt service, if you have any of those. So that is the budget template for special service districts. And then for towns, I'm just going to close these as I use them. Okay. This one obviously is a tad more detailed because.
Where did you find that from?
Oh, sorry. No, yeah. No, sorry. So that one's on the same list. So on that same page on the forms, manuals, and guides tab. And that one is under budgets. And that's just the one that says municipality and county. Okay. And if you click on it, it should automatically download into just your download folder. And then you can open it. Sometimes what people will do, and again, there's some instructions on this one, our contact info. Same thing with the 3 years of data and with in terms of your sources of revenue, you're welcome to change those. This one is also broken down in a little bit more detail on the tabs by different funds that that you can use. And like I said, if you have Polaris or Cassell or something like that, you can use that because it can be set up to spit out the 3 years of data. But if you do want to use this, please do it. That is what it is there for. And one other thing that I'll touch on with these budgets, if you ever do have some basic questions, you can come over here to our video section. And it takes a minute to load because there's kind of a lot of budgets. So this compliance basics video is essentially this training, but we do have things that we've added over the years, so we're updating that. But there is a budgeting basics video that apparently isn't going to load because we're probably sharing the guest network with a lot of people. Oh, it's down here. Well, then I am going to find it for you so you know how far to scroll down. So this budgeting basics video will also walk you through using that template and go over the requirements. And that, again, is also on just resources.auditor.utah.gov, and that is under videos. And let's see. So then we'll just go back home and then back to forms, manuals, and guides. One thing to note, these forms get updated, not necessarily every year, but they do get updated. So rather than download the template once and save it to reuse, we would suggest just every year when you need one of the templates for something to come in and just download the new one, because then you'll know that you have the most updated one. Most of anything that's getting updated this year will probably be updated around May. We have to wait for the legislative session to end to see if there's new rules, and then we'll make changes to the documents and get those out in May. I mean, the session has ended, so now we're just going through to get all those updated. So those are usually out by May or June at the latest, depending on how big of a change they are. We always hope for smaller changes or no changes, which I'm sure you guys do too. You'd prefer to have less rules than more. And then the last one I'm going to talk about before I hand it over to, actually I'm going to have Mark step in really quick because I know he has to go, but is the financial certification. And I will just point out really quickly, when you are uploading this report, the placeholder where you upload it on the state reporting system says financial report. However, when you come to find the template is called certification of the annual financial report, which is a real misstep on our part, and we're gonna maybe change that so that it's easier for people to find, because that is a mouthful and it's just called the financial report.
Financial certification.
Yes, sorry. No, thank you. I've been talking all day. So the financial certification, because I'm looking, annual.
It's you can confuse us.
That, exactly. It should just say financial certification because that's what it is. And it's basically what it is. It's you, and I'll just, if you click on it right here, it will download a copy. So this is what the template looks like. Everything in yellow you need to fill in, and then it does require signatures of both the CAO and CFO, and that could be any number of people within your entity. Sometimes an entity will designate their treasurer as their CFO, but sometimes they have a separate finance director. So whoever is your person that you would say is the overseer of finances, and then whoever is your CAO, which is oftentimes like a board of director, like the board chair, or a mayor, or you. I don't know. I mean, I think I've had smaller districts, and they're like, our clerk is our CAO. But what it's saying, and this is kind of the important part, and it does actually come up, is that the two people who have signed this are certifying that the financial report that's been submitted is correct to the best of your knowledge. And I have actually had one case where a town, the new mayor did not want to sign it because she was concerned about fraud that had been taking place, and she didn't think the old financial report was actually correct. She thought it was false and that money had been taken, and she was actually right. So if you do sign this, I mean, we're not going to like come after you or something if something is wrong. That's not the case, but it basically is saying, like, I'm just trying to emphasize, like, your responsibility when this is submitted, or the two people who have signed it, whether it's you or other people, is that you do know your financial report is correct. I mean, obviously we are in the business of making sure that there isn't any fraud in the government, and this is just kind of one of those checks that we have to do that. But that is what this is saying, that this is telling us that at least two people within the entity have examined that financial report, or at least have faith in whoever has filled it out and put it together, that, like, yes, nobody is lying. Yeah.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
First, is there a possibility of making this electronic so we can just...
So we have, well, yes. When is like a TBD, but that's something that we've actually wanted for a long time. I know that this document is going to be changing because of things that did happen in this legislative session. I don't think that would preclude us from ever making it electronic.
I think we have, with how the new code is, we might have that option just as
Yeah.
is, but we'll have to go over
Yeah,
it.
so yeah, the changes I think might actually make it easier. Yeah, which is because it's very specific language that we've had to use, and we haven't had any authority over this, which seems silly because it's just a Word document. But it hasn't really been the right of our office to be like, well, we're going to make some changes and we're just going to put this online. But with the changes that happened in this legislative session that just ended, that does seem to be more of a possibility.
Okay. And then our board adopts a resolution every year after our audit's done.
Uh-huh.
Basically saying the same
Yeah.
thing, and there's signatures on the resolution. Can we use that in place of this, or does it still need...
No, it still needs to be this. Okay, I'm going to turn the time over to Mark. He is with our privacy team, and so he is just going to talk to you about a couple changes that will maybe not affect you guys directly in your role, but will affect your entities.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mark. So yeah, I'm just going to talk really quickly about some of the privacy laws that are applicable to governmental entities. I'm going to hit a couple of the highlights, things that were already there, just because communication isn't always great. And sometimes when I come in and do trainings, people are like, what? That's a law? It's like, it's been a law for like 2-3 years. So I'm going to hit a couple bullet points really quick, and then I'm just going to make some comments on some changes that happened in this legislative session. So these are very high level. There are nuances to some things, like the first one I'm going to talk about, so don't take this as like face value. It's more, here's your bullet points. If you have questions, we can answer them, or go through the legislation, happy to answer those questions. So there's requirements on breach notifications and reporting. So if you get hacked or there's some kind of incident, depending on the severity of that, it says you have to have a template that says this is what happened, this is who you contact. Again, depending on how many people that is. how you communicate that or where it's communicated, or if it goes out immediately or it goes in your report. There has to be data collection notices. So any place where you collect data, there needs to be a little notice saying, we're collecting this data, this is what we're using it for, this is what happens if you don't give us the information, and here's who we share the information with. Sounds like a lot. It can be a little snippet, or it can be tied to a larger policy somewhere else. Prohibitions. Don't write down words you can't say. On data misuse, so you can't sell data, you can't share data unless it's expressly permitted by law. No covert surveillance, which sounds really like law enforcement, but you'd be surprised how many of your websites might be doing what's considered covert surveillance. We did kind of a quick sweep on websites and found that some of them even have key loggers, which means it's recording literally every single key press that somebody does while they're doing anything on your website. And so that's really can be considered covert surveillance. So things to kind of keep an eye out for. Employee training. All employees need to be trained annually strictly on privacy. Some people have that tied in with security awareness, but there does need to be an annual privacy training. And new hires need to have privacy training within 30 days. All of your third-party vendors, contractors, also your contracts will need to have verbiage in there that says that they are also applicable to the GDPR, so they have to follow your retention schedules, your privacy practices. And then, so we just had a HB 444, the Data Privacy Amendments bill that came through, and it doesn't change a lot as far as privacy programs go. It does push the deadline back. It said previously it was like you have to have all of this done. You have to have a fully mature privacy program by July 2025, and it's like, well, I'm wearing like 6 hats already. Why do I need a 7th hat? So this pushes it back to the end of this year, and it's not fully implemented. You just need to be able to show that you are working on it. And there's an improvement, you're putting things in place as a plan. And so when we come through to take a look at your privacy program, we just want to see, is there a plan? Do you have steps? Do you know what you're doing next? Fantastic. And then it kind of changes our oversight. Previously, Nora and Bon and I would help local governments in implementation of the privacy program. We have templates, we would come out and do trainings, give advice, whatever we could do. That role has shifted a little bit with this because to be super confusing, there's 2 privacy offices in this state. There's ours, and then there's the Office of Data Privacy, excuse me, that's in GovOps. They pretty much we did the same thing. We just did it for local government, and they did it for state agencies. Which I know, right? I get it. Well, government loves triplicates. So this bill kind of smooths that out. So the Office of Data Privacy will be the ones that are building up the privacy framework. They'll be assisting you guys in implementing those, customizing it to what your entity needs. And then we will be auditing it. So we will no longer be helping with implementation. And then our scope also changes from just governmental entities to all governmental entities. So a little bit of a change for any of your groups that were kind of in contact with us or working with us on certain aspects, whatever it is, policies, procedures, safeguards. We're going to be slowly transitioning those conversations out and moving them over to the Office of Data Privacy. If you guys do have any questions for now, we own the generic privacy@utah.gov account. So you can send any questions you have in there. We will likely be shifting that email address over to their office. So I keep selling that just because if you have privacy questions, it's still a great box to go to, and it's going to go to the people that can answer it, which right now is us. Later it'll be them. And then we will still be doing some kind of training based on what our auditing standards are going to be, how you guys can be compliant with the privacy auditing standards. We can still answer any questions when it comes to what is the law. We just can't give you advice on how to implement it, just because we can't tell you how to do it and then come in and audit ourselves. So
will the audit be part of our state compliance with our annual audit that our auditor does, or is
we
it
share an
separate?
office, but I don't have anything to do with these guys. No, the privacy audit will be kind of a separate thing. We're not tied. None of our deadlines or anything are tied in.
Yeah, we're not going to hold your funds for this, so I guess one less thing to worry
and
about.
honestly,
that way.
it's really kid gloves right now. Like, we understand privacy is just finally getting its time in the sun, and so we're not expecting anyone to have fully mature programs. Essentially, coming in, we're just going to say again, Are you rolling something out? Do you have a plan? Can we see what the plan is? And then as that maturity comes, then maybe we'll start to say, okay, well, instead of do you have this policy, I want to see this policy. Is this policy good enough? But again, we're not going to expect everybody to be like maximized, optimized level. Like we've got the greatest safeguards. We're Fort Knox. We understand also entities have different processing needs. Not every city takes in the same information. Not every city shares the same information. Different vendors have different processes. So not everybody needs to be the best. As long as it's maybe a 3 out of 5, maybe that's acceptable for your entity. So again, there's a lot of nuances there. We're going to figure that all out together. And as those auditing standards are developed and fleshed out, we're going to share them. We're going to train on them so that everybody's fully aware. We don't want anybody to get caught by surprise, and we don't want to come in and be like, gotcha doing something. No, in the end, our goal is we want privacy and security for people's data, your data, citizens' data, and anything that we can do to help build that out. We're here for. So I'll give it back to Hadley here. If you do have any questions, very hard to remember, Mark J. Meyer at utah.gov. You can ask me, or just send it to privacy@utah.gov. For now, that's ours. And like I said, we may be shifting that over.
And I'll include their contact info in the write-up that I'll send out.
Boom. Well, anyway, that's my super short show. So thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. Hadley?
Okay, I've met some of you finding me downstairs. So once again, I'm Hadley. I'm with the State Auditor's Office. I do primarily report reviews. So when you do upload your financial reports, your fraud risks, those are usually stuff that I look at, and impact fees. So if any of you do impact fees, you've dealt with me, unfortunately. But hopefully we can help a little with that today too. The first thing though that we'll start with is going to be the financial surveys. So kind of like Brooke was mentioning, if your revenue or expense totals are below $350,000, you would complete this small financial survey. The survey that I'm going to pull it up right here in Excel. This is our template for it. You don't have to use our template if you use like QuickBooks or something, an accounting software. You can upload like your balance sheet and income statements instead of filling out this template. But if you don't, you're welcome to use the template. Essentially, it just includes your balance sheet and your income statement. One thing to watch for if you are filling out this template, down here at the bottom, you'll see these little red lines. Those you just want to make sure stay little red lines or 0. If there's a number showing there, it's telling you that something's not balancing in your book. So you'll want to go back and double check and make sure everything is inputted and that there aren't any errors. Another big thing that we see sometimes with smaller entities is this section right here. This is the unrestricted general fund balance. This is limited to the amount of funds that you can hold in this unrestricted category. So for special service districts, and I'll show you guys where you can find this. We'll just pull up the Uniform Accounting Manual since it has all of them in here. And this is going to be under fund balances. So for cities, the general fund balance, so the unrestricted general fund balance cannot exceed 35% of the total revenue in the general fund. And it kind of goes on for each one. So like special service districts, it's 100% of the current year's property tax plus the most recently adopted general fund budget. So the amounts kind of change depending on your type of entity you are. But this is something to keep track of, what percentage you're at for that section on the financial report, because we do look at it, and if it is above the threshold, then we send out a corrective action for it. So you'll just want to make sure you keep an eye on that. One easy thing, if you do have too much money in your unrestricted fund, is you can transfer it to another fund. So that's an easy fix for that. Any questions on the small financial survey? Okay. And then with the small financial survey, it does require you to complete the self-evaluation. Let me pull that up. So this is the self-evaluation form. As it says in it, it's an evaluation completed by yourself. So it's important to answer these questions honestly, yes or no, or not applicable if not applicable is applicable. If you do answer no on these, you just want to make sure that you include your corrective action, because these are requirements. So if you don't have something in place that is required, you'll want to put a note over here of what you're going to do to change that for next year. If you're continually having, like, you're just writing in, we're going to fix it next year, and you just do that every year, we do check it to see what you put last year. So just know if you're continually answering no to the same questions over and over and nothing's changing, we're gonna send you a corrective action. And we don't want to do that. So it's best to just realize something needs to change and be able to implement the changes as necessary. This one's kind of long, so we'll scroll down here to the bottom. If you are preparing this yourself, one thing to note is it does need to be actually signed, not electronic. So you'll have to print
Unless
it out.
you have an electronic signature that, like, that you've created one that's like an official electronic signature.
And then that's fine. But if not, just print it and sign it and then scan it back in. This also can be filled out by a CPA, or if you hire one, like Brooke was talking about the approved vendors, then they can fill that out at the bottom that they completed this form for you. This is to be completed every year as well, and it's usually around the same time as you submit your financial report. Any questions on this self-evaluation? Okay. And then the large financial survey, so that's typically revenue or expenditures between $350,000 and $1 million. The requirements change just a little. I actually think it's already pulled up. The requirements change just a little bit as far as what reports are needed. The actual survey itself is very similar. You have your balance sheet and income statement just like you do on the small financial survey. The only difference is the capital assets portion for your total capital assets and accumulated depreciation, and then your long-term debt. So you just have a couple extra tabs here that you can fill out if they're applicable for you. This one requires an agreed upon procedure. The agreed upon procedure, I know we have right there. Does this actually open anything?
It does, but you have to save it to your downloads.
You press
or
save.
something.
Okay.
And open it up.
Okay. So the agreed upon procedure has to be completed by an independent CPA firm. So keep track of it, because sometimes you'll barely topple over the $350,000 threshold and you didn't realize. So you've submitted your self-evaluation and your financial survey, because our system doesn't flag that you should need an agreed upon procedure until we change it. So you may not know and we may not know until we actually look at it. So just make sure you're keeping track of it, because if you do end up over $350,000, you'll want to make sure you get the agreed upon procedures scheduled out with a CPA firm, and they're sometimes are pretty busy with other large audits. So, but this is kind of what the form looks like. Like I said, the CPA firm will complete all of this, so this isn't something that you guys will fill out. They'll issue findings if there are any findings, as well as the recommendation and the town's response to what you're going to do, the entity's response to what you're going to do to correct it. Kind of the same thing with this. We are checking to see what the findings are, and if you're having repeat findings, then that's something that we would ask you to submit a corrective action to us. Typically though, the best practice is if you get a finding, make corrections so that the following year you don't get the same finding. Any questions on the agreed upon procedure? Okay, cool. One last thing, and it's everyone's favorite thing. Impact fees. They are the bane of everyone's existence this year. So I apologize in advance for all of the headache that they cause. We did create the template to try to help everyone. It's not a requirement for you to use our template, but I do strongly suggest that you use it, just because this template was built straight from the state statute. So it has every requirement that is required in order for your report to be approved. The main thing when you look at this, it can feel overwhelming just because there is a ton of information on here. This is obviously the template, so we've put in data so you have an idea of what it will look like. But the main thing to think about is when you collect an impact fee, you just want to be able to track who did you collect it from, in what year did you collect it, are you spending it in that current year, and if so, where are you spending it? If you're not spending it in the current year but you're budgeting it for the future, what year are you going to spend it? What project are you going to spend it on? And what's the interest accrual for it? So sections or columns F through K, those are kind of there to show current year expenditures. So if you have like a road improvement that you are actually working on in this year, in the current year, then you would want to show that you're using those impact fees on the road in the current year. If it's like a pickleball court or something you're building next year, you won't put anything in column F through K for that specific impact fee. You'll just fill out what year you're going to build the pickleball court, and if it's a pickleball court, the project name. One thing to remember with these two, so the total impact fees that you end up having on hand, those need to match what you're reporting in your restricted for impact fees balance on your financial statements. Those numbers should be the same. So any impact fees on hand should match. And I'm more than happy to help as much as I can, so you guys can call me or email me and we can go over them together and I can help you make the changes. But this, as of right now, there weren't any changes with impact fees from the current legislative session, but these were from prior. So this will kind of be how it will be, at least for the next year. Any questions or concerns? I know everyone hates us right now for the impact fees, and I can't say that I blame you, but yeah.
So we don't always know the individual they're getting collected from, because a lot of times it's the developers. So
That's fine. The developer's fine. If you're getting them from a developer, that's fine.
Okay.
You just need to be able to track, because impact fees can only be held for 6 years. So if you're holding anything over 6 years, you need to be able to know who you're giving that back to and how much interest as well. One thing too to kind of keep in mind with impact fees, and this has happened to a couple smaller entities that have grown, but if your population grows greater than 5,000 or you collect more than 250,000 in impact fees, it does require you to have an impact fee analysis, which is that little part at the bottom right here, the reference to the impact fee facilities plan and analysis. If your population is less than 5,000 and your revenue generated from impact fees is less than 250,000, you're not required to submit that portion. But just keep in mind that if that does change, and there has been a couple places that have topped over, you do need to have the impact fee facilities plan.
So are you saying we need to upload the plan and the analysis to you, or just make reference to it?
Make reference to it, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
I think. So for our sewer projects, we don't always know which location we're going to be fixing the next year.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually based on a problem that we have. So is it okay if we just put, for the next year, 2026 sewer improvements?
You can budget them out to the 6-year mark if you want, as long as you just use them. But we just want to be able to show that you have a plan. So like some other cities are budgeting them out to the future because they're not sure if they're going to spend them in the next year. So Seth, our manager, has given guidance that it's fine to budget them out to the 6-year mark if you.
So nothing particular, just.
You just need to have a plan for it. Yeah, you just need to be able to show.
It doesn't have to be a detailed plan.
Yeah, just needs to show you have some plan for the impact fees, so they're not just going to sit there and get forgotten about. Some people were holding them from like 15 years ago, so yeah, you don't want to be in that situation where you have to return like $1 million of impact fees. So,
Hi everyone, my name is Parker Van Erden. I'm on the local government team, one of the analysts. So I mostly review financial reports. A few of you might have gotten some letters from me about your impact fee reports. And also I run our training website. So first, I'm going to go over the fraud risk assessment. Have you guys all heard of the fraud risk assessment before? I hope so. Great. Let's close out of this. All right, so just like almost everything else that we've been talking about today, the fraud risk assessment can be found on our resources.auditor.utah.gov under the forms, manuals, and guides. You'll scroll down to, did I pass it? I think I passed it.
It's kind of like hidden in there.
It is hidden, isn't
And
it?
then once you start scrolling,
It's up higher.
you're
Keep
like,
going.
where is it?
Where is it? Here it
It's
is.
right there.
Okay. So the fraud risk assessment, kind of like the financial certification. The financial certification is part of your financial report. It's due at the same time as your financial report. The fraud risk assessment is also supplemental information for your financial report. And it's due due at the same time as your financial report, and it's uploaded in the same way on the state reporting system. And if you notice here, under fraud risk assessment, we have 3 different links. So if you already know what you're doing with your fraud risk assessment, you've done them before, we have the fraud risk assessment questionnaire. If you click on that, it's just the instructions and the questionnaire. Okay? If it's your first time doing a fraud risk assessment, I would recommend opening up the preparation checklist that we have. It'll show you all of the information that you're going to need while you're filling out the fraud risk assessment. So you can pull this up, make sure you have all of this information, or you can easily get that information, and then it'll make doing the fraud risk assessment a lot smoother of a process. And if you have done the fraud risk assessment and you would like to improve in any of these areas, so let's say you don't have a fraud hotline, or you don't have a formal internal audit function, and you want to know how can you get the points for those questions? How can you implement a formal internal audit function? That's why we have the implementation guide. So the implementation guide will kind of go through each one of the questions on the fraud risk assessment and have recommended measures to comply with each one of those questions. So let's say you wanted to know about the fraud hotline, right? So implement a hotline. So it has like the definition of what a fraud hotline is, overview, and recommendations for how to implement it within your organization, recommendations for how to implement an internal audit function. So this really is like the cheat sheet for how to get a perfect score on the fraud risk assessment, right? And one thing that I will note on the fraud risk assessment, this is really a good tool for you guys to be able to assess really what it says, the level of fraud risk that your entity has. So you can take a look at it, see what areas you could improve in, go to the implementation guide, and try to implement some of those new policies. And if you're scoring straight zeros on all of this, maybe choose 1 or 2 per year that you can work on and focus on and get those in place. So then you're not overwhelmed by all of the different things that it's asking for. And one thing that I will note as well is this first question is worth 200 points. And there's no partial points when you're filling out the fraud risk assessment. So you can't give yourself like, 100 out of 200. Some people do. I don't know where they get the values from, how they decide how many points they get for it. Some people give themselves like 3 out of 5 points for having a written policy. I'm like, well, you either have it or you don't. How are you giving yourself 3 points? Anyway, especially for this first question, if you can't answer yes on the first question for having basic separation of duties, you automatically miss 200 points. You can't score any higher than 195 because it's out of 395, which automatically puts you in the very high risk for fraud. So if anything, if you're going to focus on anything from the fraud risk assessment, if you're scoring straight zeros, focus first on the first question. And to answer yes on the first question, we have a whole checklist for the first question, okay? And to be able to answer yes on that first question, you have to be able to answer yes to all of these questions on this checklist. So if you can answer yes to all of these questions, you can give yourself 200 points for your entity. If you can answer yes, and some of these maybe aren't a straight yes, but you do have mitigating controls in place. If you answer all yeses or yeses with mitigating controls, then you can also give yourself the 200 points. But if you answer no on any of these, so you could have yes, 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 and then on number 12 you have a no, you're gonna get 0 out of 200 on that first question, which automatically puts you in high risk. So that gives you, that's where you should work on. That's what you need to work on. Let's see. And this first question, so the first question is the only question that you can't have mitigating controls for. It's just not possible to mitigate the risk from not answering yes on this question. So you need to have the board chair, the clerk, and the treasurer be 3 separate people to separate those duties. And that is the basic separation of duties, as the first question implies. That's really the only question on the fraud risk assessment that is statutorily required as well. So if you don't have those basic separation of duties, not only are you going to score very high risk on the fraud risk assessment, you're technically not in compliance with the statute as well. And we'll come back to this question number 5 when we're going over training. Do you have any questions about the fraud risk right now? Is there anything that I missed?
Oh, and just sometimes I know entities, like Parker was saying, give themselves partial credit because I think they're worried about what we're going to do if they're scoring like in the high or very high. The only, I guess, ding or whatever consequence is if you don't submit it, it will just be a delinquent report. So it's not, we're not judging you based on, like there's not going to be any sort of like, we're not going to hold your funds if you have a very high risk. We will probably reach out to you and say, okay, what can we do to help you? How can we get this fixed? But I know sometimes entities just try to get higher scores because they're afraid that if they have a low score, there's some sort of like repercussion that is going to involve their funds, and that is not the case with this. So if you don't turn it in, then that is a delinquent report. But the score, we want you to be as honest as possible so that then you can take the steps to increase your score and have less of a risk.
Yeah, the point is that it can be a tool for you because, like I said, the first question is the only one that's really statutorily required. The rest are best practices that our office has identified as if you have all of this in place, you can prevent fraud in your organization. All right?
Another thing too is to make sure that you're not just copying this from year to year.
Mm-hmm.
You're like actually filling it out every year and changing the date. Because sometimes people, I don't know, maybe they forget and they upload the same one again. But just make sure that the fiscal year stuff is updated for the current year, and then that you have the signatures.
Yeah.
So, we're on a calendar year, so our audits due every June.
Yeah.
So this would be due at the same time.
So is this for, you're doing their assessment at the time
So
that you're doing it, or is it for the prior year?
So we would recommend, like for 2025, you could do it now and just submit it for 2025.
Okay.
Even though technically it's not due until, but basically if you're doing it at the same time every year, you're essentially covering like a year. Do you know what I mean? Like you're just checking in every year. So just make sure that the completed for fiscal year ending, or calendar year ending in your case, is the year that matches the upload year. But that could mean that it's going to cover the year going forward, or it's going to cover like from when you do it until like going back. Okay. It's just that there's a new one every year, so we know that you're taking the time to get it done every year.
And my board wanted to make sure that it was okay that they are doing the assessment. We don't have to have a third party swap with another agency.
No. Yeah, you can do it.
Okay. All right, any more questions about the fraud risk? No? Okay. Now, let's see. Yeah. Now we're going to go over training requirements. Okay. So there are certain trainings that special district board members are required to take. Other trainings that, like municipal council members, town council, city council, or like county county commissioners, stuff like that, are required to take. And a lot of those trainings are provided by our office. Some of them are not. So we're going to go over some of the training requirements that apply to different entity types and your entity types. So again, if you go to resources.auditor.utah.gov and then click on training, this will pull up kind of a big FAQ that we have about all of the different required trainings. It talks about our training portal website. If you scroll down a little bit, it will talk about like the local district and special service district board member training. It will say who needs to complete the training, who provides the training, where you can find the training, the relevant statute, because that if it's a statutorily required training, it'll have the code section that requires that training, and tell you how often you need to complete that training as well. So this is a great FAQ. If you're wondering, oh, do I need to do this training? You can come to this website and you can see. So if you want to access our training website to complete like district board member training or even Open to Public Meetings Act training, you can go to training.auditor.utah.gov right here. And if you already have an account, or if you don't have an account, either way, click on sign in. It's going to make sure you're not a robot. If you already have an account, you can sign in right here if you remember your email and your password. If you don't remember your password, there's a forgot password right here, and that should send an email to you. Most of the time, I've noticed it goes to people's spam inbox or your junk mail. So if that's not working, you can always give me a call, give us a call. I believe my email comes up as the support email right here. So if you see it in the bottom corner, pvan@utah.gov, you can always send me an email as well. If you don't have an account, you can create a new account. Just put in your information, first name, last name, email, create your own password, and then this box, just make sure you're putting your full entity name. I know a lot of, especially with like the special service districts, they have long names that they use acronyms for all the time. They're like HSFSSD or something like that.
WSSD.
Yeah. Please don't use acronyms here so that I will actually know what entity you're talking about. So then I make sure to give credit to the right people. So yeah, instead of using acronyms, just use the full entity name, or at least enough of it that I can figure out which entity it is. So once you have an account and you're signed in, it should bring you, you can go back to the home page. And here are 6 of probably the most relevant courses that we have on our training website. They're the first ones that you're going to see on the home page. And let's say for the Open and Public Meetings Act training, you've decided to take that. You can click on it, and if you are already signed in, you can enroll for free, and then you can start the training and go from there. So something to note is these 3 trainings at the top are the 3 that are specifically required by state code, by statute. So the Open to Public Meetings Act training is required for all public body members on an annual basis. And one thing to note is that this doesn't specifically have to be done through our office. We provide this training online as a courtesy and as a convenience for any entities who decide that our training will meet the requirements of the code. The code states, here, I'll just pull it up since we have the link to it right here. So the Open and Public Meetings Act, here's the statute that requires it. So it says the presiding officer of the public body shall ensure that members of the public body are provided with annual training on the requirements of this chapter, the Open and Public Meetings Act. A lot of cities and counties, they'll have like their city attorney or their county attorney provide once a year in-person training for all of the council members, all of the board members, even sometimes all of the board members of special districts within the county. They'll have the county auditor come in, they'll do a big in-person training, and that will fulfill the requirements. As long as it is a method that is approved by the presiding officer of the public body, that will work fine. So if the presiding officer of your public body has said that the Open and Public Meetings Act training that we provide will fulfill that requirement for that entity, that's fine. You can get on our website, create an account, and complete our training. It usually only takes about 10 minutes, It is a brief overview of the Open Public Meetings Act. The other one that is probably the most relevant is the Special District and Special Service District Board Member Training. This training is not required on an annual basis like the OPMA training is. It's required within 1 year of each term appointment or election. So if you're a new board member on a special service district, you need to complete this training within 1 year of being appointed. If somebody is reappointed or reelected, again within 1 year of that reappointment or reelection. And this training, unlike the OPMA training, can only be done through our office. And usually that means creating an account on our training portal individually, and every board member going through individually and completing this training. You'll be issued a certificate at the end of the training. Also at the Utah Association of Special Districts annual conference, we go and we provide a large in-person training that covers this board member training once a year at their conference.
Where it says 6 lessons, 22 lessons, like 6 chapters, or is there 6 different videos?
Generally that should be, like six different videos, 22 different videos. That sounds like a lot of videos. But generally when people go through the special district and special service district board member training on our website, it takes less than an hour, between like 45 minutes and an hour. And it is something that you generally only have to do every 4 years or so. So
Do you answer questions at the end?
there are some questions at the end,
You have to
just
pass
just to make sure you're paying attention. Yeah. I think you do have to pass 100%, but I think you can take the quiz unlimited times. So if you weren't paying attention the first time, you can go through and watch 22 videos again. The governmental nonprofit board member training, similar to the special district training, if you're on a governmental nonprofit, you need to complete this training within 6 months of being appointed or elected to that governmental nonprofit. These 3 trainings, the introductory trainings for county, municipal officials, and school board members, they're not required by statute, but they are trainings that we suggest, like town council members complete, or school district board members complete. And again, going back to the fraud risk assessment, where is it? There it is. Question 5 on the fraud risk assessment asks, have all governing body members completed entity-specific online training? So for special districts, special service districts, it's easy because that training is already statutorily required. You should be completing this board member training. And if all of the board members have completed it, you can say yes. For municipalities and counties or school districts, it's asking about these trainings. So for a town, have all town council members completed this training? And if they have, then you can answer yes on this question. So, and again, our training portal will issue certificates at the end of the training that you can keep track of. I would recommend downloading those, or at least sending the link to those to whoever is going to be filling out the fraud risk assessment. Might be you guys, but keep track of who has completed those trainings by those training certificates. See, I think that's all. Oh, one more thing. Grandma training. Our office doesn't provide grandma training. That's actually done through the Division of Archives and Records Service. But the grandma training is something that has to be completed on an annual basis by your entity's records officer. So whoever's in charge of keeping the records for your entity, complete the grandma training through the Division of Archives and Records Service. And if you have any questions, you can get in contact with their office. They can help you out there. So, okay. And then that's all I have. So I'm going to hand it over to Kramer for transparency.
All right.
I'll just go back.
Just a quick show of hands. Why did you turn in your entity's revenue and expenditure quarterly transparency reports? Yes, maybe.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I'll talk through it in kind of a general way, but if there are specific questions, I'm happy to dive into them. Unfortunately, the creation of the transparency reporting, there's probably about half a dozen unique ways that happens. So I'm not going to talk about all the ways it could happen for your entity, but I will talk about what it is, when to upload it, when does it due, stuff like that, and then where to upload it as well, just so we have that base level locked in. So actually we'll start at the forms, manuals, and guides page as well, just to show you where some of the resources are that'll give you some information about transparency reporting. There's a Transparent Utah section right here. Don't feel like you need to read all of that. There's lots of stuff in there. Big picture, it is a listing of all the revenues and expenditures from your entity. It's turned in quarterly, and it's stored, currently it's stored in perpetuity. That might change at some point. Right now I think we have 11 years of data. We can't hold everyone's data for all time, so I assume at some point we will stop holding data, but right now it goes back to 2014. It's a little different than what we've been talking about so far today, just because there's sort of two sides of the office. What you've heard from so far is the local government team, and their reports tend to be PDFs, and they tend to have formats or forms that you can find on our website. The transparency information you turn in is just kind of raw data. Has anyone ever looked at the transparency form? What it looks like? It's not pretty. You don't want to sit down and try and read it. It's a piped into TXT file. It's actually why I'm a data analyst. I study data because it's kind of a tricky thing to get right, and so I'm here to help with any of that. But there's not like a form on our website. There's just a format that you have to follow. So if you ever are interested in that format, you can find it right here. This is our detail file layout. It lists all the different columns of information that are supplied in the transparency file, and these yellow ones are required columns. For many, many entities, this is handled by their accounting software. For some entities, it's handled by a website we have. In fact, for those of you who do it, do you have an accounting software that does it for you, or you through an Excel template?
No, Cassell.
Oh, Cassell. Cassell is a great program for this. Yeah, they have set it up to like take your data from your financial, however you're doing all your revenues and expenditures, and put it in this format in a nice form so you can just upload it to our website. Hopefully that's the position you're in. If you or someone in your organization is in a position where you aren't doing this and you think you should be, everyone should be actually, for revenues and expenditures at least, do reach out to me. In fact, I'm gonna write my, what's the over-under on this working? Hey, not bad. Okay. My name's just kind of hard to spell.
And I'll include Kramer's contact info
Oh, good.
in the follow-up email. So.
Yeah, so for transparency, my name is Kramer.
Do you want to add me as well, Kramer?
Yeah, this is Julian. He's on our team as well. Julian. Let's put Julian. Sorry, Julian, is it an A or an E? His is J Counts at utah.gov. I used to teach. I stopped because of bad handwriting. But feel free to reach out to us. This can get a little complicated for each specific entity. So if you're in that boat, we are happy to help you, for sure. But I did want to just kind of let us all know that those are required. They are turned in every single quarter. They are always due 30 days after the quarter ends, as far as due dates go on that. So as an example, January through March is about to end in 10 days here. We will look for the January through March file on usually the first day of May. So usually wait a month and then do it the first day. So whatever the first working day in May is, we'll look for this report. Okay. This may not apply. Oh yeah, please.
So the transparency that we do in Cassell,
Mm-hmm.
that file just needs uploaded to the website, no special formatting?
That's right. Cassell does all the formatting for you. So this is why it's really nice if you do work with Cassell or Polaris or a few other of these accounting softwares. They will put it into this kind of ugly formatted version. So that's hopefully already handled for you from your end, yeah.
Will we send it to our accounting firm and they charge us $100 and it's just loading it on? Is that all?
So wait, Cassell's doing it for you and then you're paying an accountant to upload it for you?
Oh, I didn't know that was the...
Yeah, I'll show you the upload procedure right now. You may want to review that and decide internally if that's what you want to keep doing. Because once you have it from Cassell, many people just click a button on Cassell, type the dates that they want. So the most recent one would be January 1st to March 31st. Then they click enter, and then it creates the file, and then they upload the file through our portal. And uploading the file only takes a minute. So it's not supposed to be the hard part. The hard part is getting the kind of ordering figured out, and that is handled by Cassell for everyone who I've worked with, at
Send it
least.
to them and they charge us $100 to upload it.
Yeah, if that's all they're doing, you may want to review that. I might want to review that. Actually, let's talk about that real fast, just so we all know what that looks like, and maybe it'll help answer your question. Not from this page, but from our regular resource page. This is the resources.auditor.utah.gov. You can sign into our state reporting system. I'm just going to go ahead and show them this part, and we can fill in the rest of it in a second, too. Actually, let me see if I think I remember my password. Nope. Nice. Nailed it. So this is what it looks like when you sign in. At least it can look like this. Brookers is a little different. It depends on when you signed up for this and how you signed up, but generally it'll have some of these features. It'll say state reporting system on it. It'll have a button for submitting. It may have two buttons actually, but there'll be a big button for submitting. That's for all the stuff we talked about before I came up here. That's for financial reporting and fraud risk assessment and impact fee reports. There, right? Yeah. All of that's through this big red submit button. The file that I'm talking about, the transparency file, is uploaded through right here, Transparent Utah. You click on that and it takes you to a slightly different page. But once you're here, all you do is just like, either it's already connected to your entity and you just click submit, or maybe you look up your entity. Actually, what's the name of your entity?
Midway Sanitation.
Yeah, look at that. I'll just look at Midway and see if I can find it. Yeah, there's Midway Sanitation District. Click next, and then I click upload files, and I just open the file there. And then it just does take, it kind of churns for a second, and it checks to make sure you have all the requirements correctly done. And then it'll either say loaded or it'll say rejected. If it's rejected, you just call me and we figure out why it was rejected. But generally, it just loads right then, and you're done. So that's what the actual upload process looks like.
So you do open, and then you have to go down and do upload?
Yeah, that's right. You pick a file. I won't actually upload it because I don't want to throw random files in there.
I know I've done this one time, so it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you'll click upload, pick the file, click open, and then
Then it goes to
make
the-
sure you click next after it's all
Next,
done.
okay.
But yeah, that's right. So that's the general process. The other thing I will mention, though this may not apply to everybody in here, it only applies if you have W-2 employees. In fact, yeah. If you have a W-2 employee or multiple W-2 employees, you also supply payroll information every year. That's not quarterly, it is just yearly. But it's always due 90 days after the fiscal year ends, or your fiscal year ends. So you say you guys end in December, that's right. So it's due. It's coming up due in 10 days or so here. You may have already turned it in.
And what we have found with Multiple on Cassell, we have to submit it before we make, if we have new payroll changes at the beginning of the year, we have to submit it before we put those payroll changes in on our employees. Otherwise, it submits the new data,
Right.
not the data for the year we reporting for.
Yeah.
So, like our first pay period, usually ends around first or second week in January. So before
to
she
get it in
does
before that.
payroll, I have to hurry and do the annual report
Right.
and submit it before she puts new wages in.
And you submit that the same place?
Yeah,
Exact same place. It's actually the same format.
it's the same thing,
Technically, this website, which I would not recommend you sit down and read through, but if you wanted to, this actually tells you what columns are required for quarterly revenue and expenditure reports, and then if you scroll below it, it'll tell you what's required for the annual compensation report. But you'll see that the column names are all exactly the same. They actually all ends up in the same place. For me, I manage this big 470 million row database that just has all that information kind of swimming together, and I pull it apart to give it back to the public on our homepage. So great. So that's the main idea behind transparency. We can pause for a second though if there's any questions about that, or maybe we'll save you some money. Maybe it'll be all set up and get you done. Cool. And did you guys want to talk about the submitting for the other ones, or do you want me to show them? I can show them.
You can leave that open.
Okay.
Because I'll just go from there.
Yeah, in fact, let me go back a page on this one. I'm just going back to the main state reporting system homepage, and Brooke's going to show you how to upload the other files.
Oh, actually, I'm gonna jump out of here because theirs probably does look different than yours.
Yeah, I wonder, that's not my Utah.gov account, that's just my
Your Gmail.
Email
That's
account.
interesting.
That's what mine looks like too.
Okay, so you've probably been to the state reporting site, so you may just go directly there because you have reporting.auditor.utah.gov bookmarked. If not, you can always reach it from the resource website. And I'm just going to log out really quick. So when you get to the state reporting system, you'll create a new account if you don't have one. Otherwise, you will sign in. That's fine. I'll just make a new one. Okay, so if you haven't, or if you need to create an account, you'll come in, you'll click on Office of the State Auditor initially. You'll put in your first name and then your email address, phone number, and then we'll make a password and confirm that password. And then submit. Oh, perfect. That did it. Okay. Was it? Oh, okay. So when you guys log in, does it say state? Does it go straight to here, or does it give you the option to go to state auditor or state treasurer?
Yeah.
Yours, okay.
I think
Okay.
if you signed up with the treasurer's office first,
No, because mine was set up with this, and that is what mine does.
because yours is older.
That actually could be true. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
an odd system.
So everyone's is different, apparently.
The DNI reports have to go to the.
Yes, and Anne, like I said, Anne couldn't be here today. So do all of you do deposit and investment? I'm assuming you all have PTIFs. So, and I'll include that in the follow-up email after. But Anne does the deposit and investment. If you haven't ever spoken to her, she's wonderful. She's very helpful, and I'll include her contact information. But normally what will happen is if you have access to all three, which would be state auditor, state treasurer, and transparency.
Actually, Brooke, just in case this never comes up for anybody, you'll notice on this page, it's kind of subtle, transparency's missing.
Yes, it is. I just noticed that.
No, yeah, it's fine. This happens if you don't click a certain checkbox when you're creating
Oh.
your account, and she didn't click it. It was actually totally fine because you can get it still. If you click there and then request for access, you can click transparency, and it will change this page a tiny bit and allow the thing I just showed you a minute ago to also work.
I'm not going to
collect.
I'm not going to click treasurer's access because I don't want to confuse Anne with a fake account. Ooh. Okay. Why won't it let me go back now? Oh, okay.
And now,
All right, so there's Transparent Utah. So normally when you log in, if you have access to everything, it will give you the option to either select the state auditor or state treasurer. So in our case, we're just going to pretend that we selected state auditor and came in here. If you do need to go to Transparent Utah, that will show up there. Otherwise, you can go into submit reports. Have all of you submitted reports before? Okay. One thing I do want to point out, oh shoot, and I also don't want to forget two things that I already forgot about. Update contact information. I don't know if any of you have used this before. This is really useful for us if you guys remember to essentially do this on like a yearly basis. Like maybe at the beginning of the year, just kind of make it a habit. Because there's just like 1,500 to 1,600 entities that we're overseeing. So getting like us being able to update that contact information is just pretty unrealistic because this is essentially our team. And so this option makes it very easy. You can come in and you can pick your entity, and it will take you to a page that has contact information for your entity. So if you have a phone number or fax number, email, website, and then the physical address, it could be an office or whatever. And then down here is really the most important piece of information that we're looking for. This lists all of the people who are part of your entity. It gives a contact name, it has a position, a role, an email address, a phone number, a primary contact, or it gives you the option to delete somebody. So we're going to delete Jimbo Jenkins. And so you'll see that Jimbo is now gone, and then that feeds over to us, and he will show as deactivated in our system and should no longer get any contact. If you want to add a contact, just come down here. And then two other things. If you can always make sure that you have a CFO and a CAO marked, as well as a primary contact. And the primary contact can be a CFO and or a CAO, but it can also be a different person. In fact, in a lot of cases, there will be like the chief administrative officer is like the mayor or the city manager or the board chair, and then the CFO is a financing director or maybe a treasurer, or sometimes it's even the clerk, depending on what you're doing. And then the primary contact might be a third person, like the clerk. A lot of times we do actually encourage the clerk to be the primary contact because you guys are kind of like the eyes and ears and just kind of know everything that's happening. But it's up to you how you want to designate that. But we do encourage all entities to have at least those selected so that we know who the best people are to be contacted. Phone numbers aren't as important, but please make sure that there is an email address in there. So that is kind of the most important thing about that. And then let me go back. So that's the state reporting system. If you do ever have questions about using it, or you forget how to update contacts, or you need to send it to somebody because they need to create an account, this very first video on our video page called State Reporting System is a very clear and detailed step-by-step walkthrough of using the state reporting site. So if you do ever have a question, this is a great video. I think it's like our longest or second longest video, and it's like 10 minutes. So most of our videos are pretty short. That one is the longest at 10 minutes, but it is very, very helpful. And then one other piece I wanted to show you, and then we'll just talk about deadlines, is the compliance dashboard that you may or may not be familiar with. And again, that was just found on that homepage of resources.auditor.gov. Or it is transparent.utah.gov/compliance. And this is a great website. If you don't want to call me on the phone and you don't want to log into the state reporting system, you can come here and you can just look up your entity. It will appear here. You can start to type in your name, or you can scroll through the drop-down box, and then your entity will appear. This is updated every day, hourly, so it's very up-to-date information. It lists what your status is. So currently Alpine City is currently all caught up on their reports. They do have one issue, and you'll see down here under auditor reports, which that would be your financial report, your certification, impact fee, self-eval, AUP, any of those. they have an issue with their impact fee report because everybody has issues with their impact fee report this year. And so it's marked as action required. They're not on hold yet. They're still within the period of time they have to fix it, but it just shows that like, oh, hey, we need to do something. So if I was the clerk or the mayor or whatever of Alpine City, I could come in here and be like, oh, we're really good except for this. I'm going to talk to so-and-so because they're in charge of this, and we'll make sure that they know that they're supposed to be correcting it. But you can see the deposit and investments are up to date, and transparency reporting is up to date. So this will give you very current data in terms of the status of your entity and what you are missing. And of course, you're always welcome to call us and ask us that same question. But this is a really nice way to be able to see that. And also there's an option where you can just download this information. If I know sometimes entities will call because they're delinquent on something and out of compliance, and the mayor or board chair says, okay, get this in so that we're compliant, and then send me proof that we are compliant. Just download this report. I mean, give it an hour once you've uploaded and like talk to us to let us know, because we can go in and review whatever you've uploaded. But then this is something you can send to somebody to say, no, look, we are compliant, we're good. This was just updated an hour ago or whatever. So that is a great website, just to kind of be able to grab that information. Do any of you use the public notice website? Okay. We don't own that or control that. If you ever have questions about rules, Seth is your best person to call, and I'll include his info as well. He's, again, our local government manager, but he can typically answer your questions in terms of like the laws and rules regarding that. But as far as uploading and doing everything, that is a website that we have no control over. And I know if you've ever had to get help from that website, I know it is a pain, and I'm so sorry. And I wish that I had someone who I knew was like the better option, but he retired like 4 years ago. So I no longer have anyone that I can send you to who can be helpful, because I do know how like it is a pain to try and get help on that website. And unfortunately, we have the same access you have, so we can't really do anything, but Seth can at least answer your questions if you ever have questions about rules of when to post meetings or anything like that. And then really quickly, I wanted to, one thing I did forget to mention in the beginning, as far as file types that you upload, obviously transparency is its own special thing. Annoying thing. The preferred document types are either a PDF, an Excel, or Word. They're easiest to read. They're easiest when if the public is ever searching for reports, because all of these reports are public facing. Those are the easiest for them to like download and grab. Most other file types we can't even open anyway. The only other file type we can open that we do not prefer is an image. Really the only document you should really be able to get away with is like the financial certification, because it's one page, and it's like just right there. But try to use a scanner, or at least if you do have to take a photograph of something, at least once it's on your computer, save it as a PDF instead of an image file, just because they're really bulky and they're just harder for us to view, because it opens up on a really big screen rather than just a nice little file. So, and all of our templates are in the types of files we accept, so you don't really ever have to change anything. Some people do change their budget to a PDF, or their financial reports. If they come out of like Cassell or Polaris, they are a PDF already, they come out. A PDF is a great option. And so you're welcome to do that. But those are the three that we prefer. And then really quickly, I just wanted to go over deadlines. So if you are on a calendar year end, so if your year is essentially January to December, then you know all your reports are due at the end of June. July is essentially a grace period. We don't send out any notices in the month of July. And then in August, we will send out a 60-day delinquency notice if you are missing anything. And so you still have 60 days in addition to those 30 days. And then on October 1st, we will send out hold notices. And we don't love to do that. We're not in the business of trying to keep anyone's money for them. We're just in the business of trying to keep everyone compliant. So I know nobody likes to get any of those notices. I have worked for many years to make them as gentle as possible, but I don't think there's a nice way to say, hey, you haven't submitted your report, and if you don't submit your report, the state law says we're going to keep your funds from you. But I've tried really hard, so apologies if it sounds rude. It's not meant that way. And then if you're on a fiscal year, which most cities and towns are, then your year begins July 1st and ends June 30th, and then your reports are due at the end of December. And then January, again, is just a grace period. 60-day notices would go out February 1st, and then hold notices would go out April 1st. So if there's anything that's missing. When we send out 60-day notices, this sometimes causes a little bit of confusion. We only list what you're missing for that current reporting time period. So if you got a 60-day notice this past February, it would have been, if you were a town, pretty much, it would only list what was due from the 2024 year end. But if you had also been missing something from 2023, we wouldn't put that on the 60-day notice. However, when you get your hold notice in April, we would list everything that you're missing. And the same thing on a calendar year, when we send those out in August, we wouldn't include anything that's prior to the year that we're collecting for at that time, but come October, when we send out the hold notice, it would list anything that you're missing if you're missing beyond that report year. And again, if you ever have questions about if you get a notice and you're like, I don't think this is right, please give us a call, because Hadley kind of mentioned this. Occasionally, entities will go over a threshold and they will no longer be required to submit a self-eval. They'll have to submit an agreed upon procedures, or vice versa. It can go the other way. Maybe they'll fall below it. But a requirement for the report that they previously submitted is in there because that's what you did the year before. And because our system can't do that, and it's just us doing it manually, sometimes we forget to take out the old report. And so you might get a delinquency notice, and it might be for a report that you don't actually have to submit. Just give us a call, we'll delete it, and you're good. Or sometimes amended budgets, which we don't require, but you're welcome to submit. Sometimes an amended budget can accidentally get marked as a required report, and it will get picked up and shown as delinquent. Your amended budget is not delinquent. Just, again, if you ever have a question about anything, just call us. Budgets, the timing is a little bit different. Those are due within 10 days after adoption, and no later than prior to the start of the year, because legally you're not supposed to operate without a budget. January is still a grace period. If we don't have it, we're not going to send any notice out to you, but come February, we'll send you a 10-day notice. And so you'll have 10 days, 10 business days to get that budget submitted. And then if you get a suspend notice from us, that means you shouldn't be operating, because we don't have evidence that you have a budget and you're not supposed to operate without a budget. So if a suspend notice, we're not going to hold your funds. You just shouldn't be spending any money or doing anything. I think that is it. Does anybody have any more questions?
Here is the contact information for the various individuals from our office that were mentioned during this training video. If you have any questions about any of the information that was covered during this training, please feel free to reach out to our office.